generation of the Lexus RX is here, and with it comes a new performance model, the 500h that you see here behind me. Should you buy it? Well, that depends on what you're looking for from your Lexus RX hybrid. Let's take a closer look. So to frame up the RX 500h and what it is, let's start with what it is not. This is not a 3-row SUV, and it doesn't appear in the 5th generation that the RX will be. Lexus seems to be sending its 3-row customers to the new TX, which is based on the Grand Highlander, and that makes a lot more sense. The RXL for the previous generation was pretty tight in dimensions, and so what it looks like Lexus has done here is focused on doing 2 rows very well. For the 2023 model year, the RX comes with 3 different powertrain configurations. There's a gas-only engine that acts as the base model. There's a 350h hybrid, a lower-powered hybrid, and then there's the 500h, which is intended to be a performance hybrid. And let's get into what that means. Here in the RX 500h, you'll find a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine paired with 2 electric motors, 1 on each axle. Those combine for a total power output of 376 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque. And yes, if that sounds like a lot of power, it is the most powerful RX that Lexus has ever made. And you really feel the difference in every drive mode, sport or otherwise, in this thing. And yes, sport mode was actually useful. It's quick to accelerate even from a stop, and power delivery is really nice and smooth and energetic all the way through the power band. It really delivers on what it promises, which is to make the most of that hybrid powertrain to really provide a performance driving experience in an SUV. Now here in the 500h, the power is distributed through a 6-speed automatic transmission, and that's as opposed to the continuously variable transmission, the CVT, that you'd find in the 350h. You'll tend to find CVTs in more fuel efficiency oriented cars, whereas putting the 6-speed automatic here in the 500h suggests that Lexus wanted to give drivers a little bit more control over how that power was being delivered, and I know that's something that performance drivers will appreciate. With those 2 electric motors, Lexus provides electronic all-wheel drive here in the 500h, and in this model specifically, it's Lexus's new Direct 4 all-wheel drive system. And what Lexus has effectively done with this is leveled up the electronic all-wheel drive that you find in other Lexus and Toyota vehicles by making it possible for the torque split from the front to rear axle to change within milliseconds, almost instantly. And it will also respond to different conditions. So, for example, you may enter a corner with the split automatically set to 70-30. The car decides that. And then as you're exiting the corner, it may deliver, say, 20% to the front and 80 to the rear to give you a little bit more push coming out of the corner. And the car does that all on its own. It makes that decision for you. So that's quite an improvement over the other electronic all-wheel drive systems that you find from these 2 brands. The 500h also comes with a standard adaptive suspension, which goes a long way in bringing this out of the old world of Lexus RXs that were very floaty and bouncy and reactive, but not very responsive, let's say. This is a very flat, composed, implanted vehicle that lives up to its performance name. I'm not saying that you want to track this necessarily, but certainly it soaks up all the bumps on the road. It's very comfortable, but not overly bouncy or floaty. You really feel connected to the road with the suspension, and it is very well executed. Another standard feature is 4-wheel steering, which means that on the rear axle, the wheels can turn up to 4 degrees to help get a little bit of a tighter turning radius when you're going through curves and that sort of thing. On this vehicle, to be perfectly honest with you, that might be a little bit of overkill. A midsize SUV isn't generally terribly difficult to get through corners, but it does help and adds a little bit more of that performance cachet to the vehicle. I mentioned earlier that you generally find CVTs in fuel efficiency oriented vehicles, and this doesn't have that, which speaks to the fact that Lexus intended this as a performance hybrid, not really a fuel efficiency oriented hybrid, which is what we're used to. So that comes through in the fuel figures from Natural Resources Canada, which come in at 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers in city driving, 8.4 on the highway, and 8.6 combined. And the truth is, our numbers that we've seen here have been a little higher than that. Over 400 kilometers of driving, our figure is 10.8 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's a little surprising because it's not as though we've been carrying a lot of people around or a lot of cargo or anything of that sort. So I guess that really speaks to, if you push this thing and test it and drive it as it's intended, which is throwing it into curves and back roads and that sort of thing, then you're going to get a little bit less fuel efficiency than you might be used to seeing from a Lexus hybrid. That's by design, and they've really intended this to be a driver's car. car and not really looking for that efficiency as a top priority, but Lexus buyers may not be used to that. So if you are looking for an efficient Lexus RX, this isn't the one that you're looking for. You're looking for the 350h, which has a combined fuel efficiency of 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which might be a little closer to what you're used to. As is typical with the new generation, the new Lexus RX has received some exterior design updates. One of the most prominent ones is the new grille. The updated design features an element with a solid piece at the top that cascades over the front of the hood and then continues the pattern down into the grille. Design is always very much a matter of taste. I'm not sure it's something that speaks to me personally, but if it does to you, zero judgment. Our test unit is equipped with the F-Sport Performance 3 package, which is the only package available on the 500h in Canada. That equips these triple beam LED headlights, which are adaptive and auto leveling. The standard headlight is a dual beam headlight, and LED lighting is standard all the way around the vehicle. On the side profile, you have the floating roofline that the RX has become known for, along with some emphasized hips. And in the rear, there's a new layout that has a full light bar across the entire back with the Lexus name spelled out as opposed to a logo. And this is really an attractive treatment and makes the rear three-quarter angle on this vehicle the most attractive in my opinion. The exterior color you see here is called Copper Crest, and it's exclusive to the RX 500h. It's quite a bold color expression for the Lexus world. The rest of the colors for this model are in the white, gray, black spectrum, so if color is what you want, this is your choice. There are bolder colors such as blue and red and nori green that are available for the other RX models. Now with Copper Crest, your only interior color option is black, and this black interior is quite black. It's a little on the dark side, helped by the panoramic sunroof, and there is some layering of materials, although this faux suede is starting to look a little on the dated side in 2023 in my opinion. Generally speaking, it's very well made and the layering of material is nice, but it does feel a little bit closed in. If you choose any other exterior color, you can get a red interior, which is probably a little bit more bright and airy. I find the seats here in the front to be very comfortable. My partner says that because he has longer legs, he wishes that the seat cushions were a little longer, and the bolstering might be a little bit difficult for people with more ample builds, but for me, I find everything here is proportioned very nicely. Heated and ventilated front seats and heated and ventilated outboard rear seats are standard here on the 500h, as well as a heated 3-spoke steering wheel. Let's talk about this steering wheel because the touchpads are an interesting discussion. If you have the head-up display equipped on the RX, then you also get a steering wheel with these 2 touchpads, one on each side, with 4 arrows and no symbols. And the reason for that is you can customize each direction on each touchpad and in fact have 2 pages worth of custom controls for each side so that you can set up to 16 settings to be able to customize your controls however you like. Now this sounds great in theory. In practice, I've found it a little bit difficult to get used to. I've tried this in a couple of different RXs now, and for me, it's not instinctive to not have a symbol right in front of me that tells me what the button does and to have to look at the head-up display to figure out what I want to do. And to begin with, you have to sort of rub the touchpad to activate it, and then you can see the symbols up in the head-up display to figure out which button's going to do what you need. It takes some getting used to. It's possible after owning the car for a while, it would be a little bit easier to get used to, but in the 2 or 3 weeks worth of testing that I've done intermittently, I have still not come close to getting used to it yet. There are a couple of fun party tricks here in the interior. One is the center console, which opens from both the driver's side and the front passenger side so that both people can access what's inside the console. The other is a front cup holder. In its standard configuration, it's of the right height for, say, a can of soda or a smaller coffee. And then if you push it down, you can fit a larger bottle or a larger coffee in the same cup holder. It's kind of neat. For the second row, the seat backs are tiltable, which is nice, and they're power adjustable, which is good for somebody that's sitting there, but not so great if you are, say, at a store and you want to lower the seats quickly to get some cargo into the back because it's power only and it is quite slow to activate. 838 liters of cargo space behind the second row seats, which is a pretty solid number for this segment, but when you drop those seats, the number is 1,308 liters, which is on the smaller side, the tighter side for a 2-row luxury SUV. On the technology side, if you pick any other RX, you start with a 9.8-inch screen and you have to upgrade to the 14-inch screen, the latest Lexus infotainment system. If you choose the 500H, that 14-inch screen is standard and it's very, very nice. It operates really quickly and smoothly. Very few glitches, actually zero glitches, and no issues with it whatsoever. It also comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a really nice add-on. And an important detail is that while there are no hard buttons here in the interior for climate controls and seat temperature and that sort of thing, those functions all reside in a static bar at the bottom of the screen that never gets taken over by CarPlay or anything of that sort. It's always there so that you always have control over those functions, and it works quite well. It's fairly intuitive. There's a wireless charging pad that comes standard in the 500H. It resides in a bin just below the screen. My phone has stayed connected to it very consistently, which is not something that has always been the case in Lexus wireless charging pads, so that's a nice feature to have. The bin also has a USB-A port and a USB-C port. There are 2 more USB-C ports just above that bin, and there are 2 more, again, at USB-C ports in the second row for those passengers. A digital camera mirror is also standard here in the 500H. Now, I don't tend to use this camera because I find it difficult to adjust my eyes to the depth of field for that versus looking straight ahead on the road. But I will confess I've found it to be a very useful feature at times when, for example, you've got a lot of stuff that you're bringing home from the Swedish store and you lose that rear visibility because you're packed right to the top of the cabin. Even if it's something that you wouldn't use all the time, as a premium feature to have on hand for those occasions when you do need it, it's very handy. It's unsurprising from Lexus perhaps, but we can report that the safety equipment and driver assistance technology in this vehicle is pretty well second to none as far as the industry is concerned. In particular, there's a lot of turning assist technology that's uncommon in even luxury SUVs, such as pedestrian detection during turning, junction turning assist, and the RX will also detect when a car is turning in front of you at an intersection and mitigate a collision through braking as well. The pre-collision system can detect cyclists and motorcycles in addition to pedestrians. And there's a safe exit assist system that's connected to the electronic door latches. There are no manual door latches here except for emergency releases. And if you try to press this latch and there's a cyclist or somebody coming up behind you while you're trying to open the door just simply will not open. So let's wrap things up by going over the pricing. Here in Canada, the base price for the Lexus RX 500H is $83,832.50, and that includes a freight and PDI charge of $2,205. The Copper Crest paint job costs $650, and the only available package which is equipped here is the F Sport Performance 3 package. That costs $5,800. It doesn't add anything essential per se. There's some extra driver assistance technologies, those auto leveling headlights we talked about, but I think the 2 features that are most worth the money are the 21-speaker Mark Levinson audio system and the 1500-watt inverter, which lets you use the hybrid battery to power household devices. But if those aren't things that you feel that you'd benefit from, you could easily skip this package. As it stands, with the package, our as-tested price here is $90,282.50. How does that stack up in terms of value? Well, we know that even in a first model year of a new generation, buying a Lexus is a good bet. Their reputation for a bulletproof reliability is absolutely unparalleled. But if you're used to buying an RX hybrid because you want efficiency, just bear in mind that the 350H is probably the one you want because it's definitely the more fuel efficient of the 2 hybrid models. What the RX 500H represents is a new entry from Lexus into the performance 2-row SUV world. And in that world, there are not a lot of hybrid options. And the few that there are tend to be plug-in hybrids, which have their benefits in terms of electric driving in the city, but they are also quite a bit more expensive. So from that perspective, what Lexus is offering here is unique. It's intended as a niche vehicle, and it's definitely not for everyone. But if you're a loyal Lexus driver who's been hoping for a performance entry from Lexus in this category, here it is, and you're going to want to pick one up. For Driving.ca, I'm Stephanie Walcraft. For more SUV reviews and other features, visit our website or follow us on social media.